Hi everyone, it's Rose again, and this is part 2 of my December wrap-up and January TBR. Part 1 was the wrap-up, and I will put the link to that down below. I just wanted to make 2 shorter videos because otherwise this would be really long. So, December I read about 10 or 11 books. I'm aiming for a little bit more in January, for around about 13. That includes my library books and some ebooks and a couple of books that I got for Christmas. So we will start with the 2 that I am already reading, because that makes some sense. The first of those is Philippa Gregory's The Constant Princess, and this is one of her Tudor series, which I have read several of. I actually already have one of them. I own the Boleyn Inheritance, so this is a Christmas gift, so now I have this one as well. And at some point I would like to have the whole series. It is, as the name suggests, about the reign of the Tudors in England. The majority of it is around the reign of King Henry VIII and his many wives. This one is about Catherine of Aragon, Henry VIII's first wife, and her journey to England to marry his older brother, and the events that transpired and how she ended up with King Henry. It's really fascinating, and it's an interesting look at her because usually I find Catherine is portrayed as sort of old and staid and stuffy and very, very religious and not very interesting. And then, of course, Anne Boleyn is this young, sexy upstart, and she's the one that's, really interesting. And so I really love this book for showing it from a different perspective. I'm actually kind of cheating by putting this on a TBR because I read it in the first couple days of January. So I don't even know if it counts, but it was on my January to-be-read list. I just read it before I filmed this video. Next up in the books that I am currently working my way through is this one. This is the Willpower Instinct. It is by Kelly McGonigal, Dr. Kelly McGonigal. It is a nonfiction book. It is a pop psychology type self-helpy book about how willpower works, how self-control works, and also, obviously, the thing that everyone wants to know is how they can get better at using their willpower. And I thought this was a really, really appropriate book for January, for the start of a new year, because everyone has New Year's resolutions, and most people do. I certainly do, and if this book can help me keep them, then I am all for it. And this is another gift. It does come with little exercises and things. You're meant to sort of work through the book as you read it, so I'm not sure if I will finish it in January, but I will definitely give it a shot. Next is kind of in the books I'm already reading. I don't have a physical copy of this because it is the next volume in George R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire, aka the Game of Thrones books. And next up is book number 4, which is A Feast for Crows, obviously relating to the crows up at Castle Black and the Night's Watch and the events of the Battle of Night's Watch, or the Battle of Castle Black, and where we go from there. I'm really excited about this because I have loved the books so far, but they've been kind of weird because I already knew what happened, courtesy of the wonderful TV show. And although not everything is exactly the same, you kind of knew that the basic, well, I know what's going to happen with this major character. And now I've pretty much caught up. I am so excited. I get to actually read things that haven't happened in the show yet. I am really, really thrilled about that. I'm really excited to find out what happens, and I think it's going to make the books even more interesting for me. Another one that I don't have a physical copy for is Ghost Girl, or the Ghost Girl series by Tanya Hurley. I don't often read young adult novels. However, this is one that I have recently discovered is going to be made into a live-action film by one of my favorite directors, Matthew Vaughn. And so obviously I want to see what he's working with. And I picked up those. That's why one of the reasons I picked them up in ebook form rather than in physical copies is because it's a little bit cheaper and I don't know if I'm really going to love them. But it's going to be an interesting foray for me to go into young adult a little bit more because I don't usually read too much of it. And I hope that I will really like them. So if any of you guys have read them, please let me know what you think. And I'm hoping, I don't know if I'm going to try to read the whole series in this month or if I'm going to try to do one a month for the next couple months, but that's definitely on the list. Next, I will go through some of the books that I picked up from the library this month, because obviously I know I'm going to have to read them in January, because then I have to give them back. First up, we have this is called The Wake. It's hard to see in this light a little bit. It's called The Wake, and it's by Paul Kingsnorth. I picked it up for two reasons on the cover. It's not a massively exciting cover, but there's this little sticker here, which you can't read, but says it was long listed for the Man Booker Prize in 2014. It also has a little review quote down here that you can't see because my light's shining directly on it and it's kind of shiny. It says Extraordinary by Philip Pullman. And Philip Pullman, obviously, we know from the His Dark Materials trilogy, which I read way back when they came out. And I love them, so if he thinks it's good and the Man Booker Prize thinks it's good, probably good. It is about a group of guerrilla fighters after the Norman invasion of England in 1066. And the really interesting thing about this, other than the fact that we know I love historical fiction, is that the author, Kingsnorth, actually created this language for the book that's kind of like an updated version of Old English, so it's made more understandable for the modern reader. It sounds very similar to Chaucer's English. That's probably the best known that you would recognize. I can't really read it to you because it's mostly in the spelling and the grammar and the punctuation. It's very much phonetic spelling, but with a weird accent almost. And I thought it would just be really interesting to challenge my brain a little bit to read something that is in English, but is in like a shadow tongue of Old English. And I just thought it'd be really interesting to give that a shot. So this could end up absolutely driving me insane and proving impossible to read, or it could become really, really interesting and I could love it. And I will probably do a review of this just because of that style of writing it. Next up is an author that everyone will recognize, J.K. Rowling. And this was her follow-up to the Harry Potter books that had nothing to do with Harry Potter, The Casual Vacancy. And it is a story, it is a big novel about a small town, according to the Flyleaf. And it is a novel about people in a small town. And I'm really interested to read it, mostly not because of the storyline or the plot, but for the same reason I think everyone was. I want to see what else Rowling has up her sleeve. I want to know how well her style of writing translates to a book that isn't a young adult novel. I want to see how she writes when she's writing with a different set of characters. So I just picked this up because I thought, you know what, I've been meaning to read it when it came out. I didn't get around to it yet. Here's my chance. After that, we have another one by Philippa Gregory. It's actually about King Henry VIII's father, also called King Henry, King Henry the Seventh, King Henry Tudor, when he ascended the throne and finding himself a wife. And it is sort of about how the Tudors managed to take over and reign Britain courtesy of winning a war. And I absolutely love the series. I haven't actually read this one in the series yet, so I'm kind of excited. I was looking in the paperbacks, I'd intended to pick up something light and chiclety, or something maybe from a foreign author to round out my reading for the month, and I saw this and I couldn't resist. I couldn't help it. Next up on my library books is The Fortune Hunter by Daisy Goodwin. This is another bit of historical fiction. It was just published last year. That's weird to say last year. Published in 2014. And it is about heiresses and empresses and Victorian England, and we know I love that kind of stuff. So I thought I had to pick it up. Simple as that. Last library book of all is C.P. Boyko's Novelists. And this is a collection of short stories, which I picked up for two reasons. One of which is that I want to read more outside of my comfort zone. I want to read some things that are not all chick lit and historical fiction and fantasy, because that really is where I tend to sit with my nonfiction reading. I've always found short stories a little difficult, so I thought I should probably try to read some more and see if I get along better with them. I think this one may be a good place for me to start because, as the title suggests, It is about all the different ways that people write, and as a writer myself, I thought it related quite beautifully, and hopefully I will find this one a little more interesting. I will try to do a review on it because it is something a little bit different for me. So that's the library books. I have a couple more that I picked up recently that I wanted to read this month, but two of these are kind of in the if I have time part of the TBR pile. My TBR pile is split into different categories. It's so ridiculous. First one is Nicholas Evans' Smoke Jumper. This is an author famous for The Horse Whisperer, and Smoke Jumper about smoke jumpers. It's a title given to firefighters who jump out of planes to put out forest fires, which is an incredibly impressive and dangerous profession. And I do like the way that Nicholas Evans writes. So this is kind of my chick-lit-y contemporary book for the month, I guess, because I'd intended to pick one up and ended up with more historical fiction. Then the next one I have, this is actually a nonfiction book, so I kind of do round myself out a little with it. I picked this up on the library sale shelves, and it is called Michael Moore is a Big Fat Stupid White Man. I like that title. And it's by David T. Hardy and Jason Clark. And this is pretty much what it says on the tin. It is a book about Michael Moore, famous documentary filmmaker, who I am really not a fan of. I think he is inflammatory and ignorant and frankly kind of annoying. And this is a book that essentially agrees with me, I think. So, yay. It seems like it'll be fun, it seems like it'll be a little funny, and everyone likes reading books that line up with their own worldview sometimes. Sometimes challenge is fun, sometimes just going, yeah, I am right. It's also fun too. And last but not least, I have a set of these 3 trade paperbacks for Marvel's Daredevil. I got these at a hella deal at the comic book store. It's like $75 worth of comic bookery for $24. And I picked these up because Daredevil is being turned into a Netflix TV series, a 4-parter with Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. And I don't know Daredevil as well as I should, so I thought I'd grab the comic books and have a little read and see what I thought, and obviously then get all riled up about how terrible the Ben Affleck movie was, because that's what every Daredevil fan did. So that is my January TBR pile, library books included for once. And I will be posting lots more videos this month, New Year's resolutions video, some crafty stuff, some reviews, all kinds of good stuff. So thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe, and I will see you soon.